Letting go is not the moment you stop caring. It is the moment you stop asking something impermanent to keep proving who you are. A cup can stay in the cupboard long after its season has ended. A chair can remain beside a window after the person who used to sit there no longer returns in the same way. A folded shirt can become heavier than cloth because the mind has placed a small word on it, mine. But the mind does not always cling to the thing itself. Sometimes it clings to what the thing seems to prove, that a season mattered, that a wound was real, that a version of us once had a place in the world. This is why letting go hurts more than we expect. We are not only releasing a person, a memory, a role, an apology, or a future that never became real. We are releasing the hidden ownership the mind built around it. In the early path, letting go is not coldness. It is a clear seeing of the place where suffering grows, where craving takes what is changing and quietly asks it to keep holding the self together. The hand suffers not only because something changed, the hand suffers because it forgot how to open. So the question is not, how do I stop feeling? The question is more honest than that. Where has my care quietly become ownership? A closed hand can look devoted from the outside. It can say, I care. It can say, I am loyal. It can say, I just need to understand. It can say, I cannot let this go because it mattered. And sometimes that is true. Some things should matter. Love should matter. Harm should matter. Truth should matter. A human heart is not a stone on the roadside, but there is a moment when care turns into a grip. You can feel it in small ways. A cupboard is opened, and one old cup is still kept in the back. Not because anyone drinks from it, but because throwing it away feels like admitting that a season has ended. A chair sits in the same corner, long after the conversation that once filled that corner has disappeared. A familiar street is avoided, because the body remembers before the mind is ready to speak. Nothing dramatic happens outside. Inside, the hand closes. Care is not the problem. The suffering begins when care becomes a hidden demand that life must not change. Craving, or taiha, is not only wanting pleasure. It is the mind leaning toward experience and saying, stay, leave, or become something else before I can be at peace. Letting go does not mean the love was false. It means the thirst around the love is being seen. This distinction matters because many people are afraid that releasing the grip will dishonor what was lost. So they keep touching the wound as if repetition proves devotion. They replay the sentence. They preserve the ache. They carry the old expectation like a cracked bowl wrapped in cloth, afraid that if they set it down, the tenderness itself will disappear. I have held on that way before, not because the holding brought peace, but because releasing felt like betrayal. It felt as if my pain needed a guard, and if I stopped guarding it, the whole story would become meaningless. But pain does not need clinging in order to be real. The question is not whether something was important. The question is whether the mind is using importance as permission to suffer again and again. Care remembers with tenderness. Clinging keeps negotiating with what has already changed. Some grips are not love. Some grips are fear trying to look faithful. And once this is seen, a deeper layer appears. Often we are not only holding the person, the place, or the memory. We are holding the self we became around it. Letting go becomes painful because we are not only releasing an object. We are releasing a version of ourselves. Someone may say, I cannot let go of that relationship. But underneath, Another sentence may be waiting. I cannot let go of being the one who was chosen. Or, I cannot let go of being the one who was wronged. Or, I cannot let go of the future I had already lived in my mind before life refused to build it with me. The hand is not only holding another person, it is holding an identity. This can happen quietly. A drawer opens. A folded shirt still carries the shape of an old season. A train ticket, a receipt, a small object with no value to anyone else lies there like a witness. Dust gathers along the wood. The room is ordinary, yet the body pauses. The breath becomes shallow. The mind does not only remember what was lost, it remembers who it was allowed to be when that thing was still present. I have kept small things longer than I needed to, not because the object itself was necessary, but because setting it down felt like agreeing that a whole version of my life had ended. The object was small, the identity around it was not. Sometimes I was not afraid of losing the thing. I was afraid that without it, I would no longer know how to prove that part of me had existed. This is why letting go can feel like falling. Losing the object hurt. But losing the person I believed I was beside that object hurt even more. The Buddha's teaching on not-self is often misunderstood as cold or abstract, but here it becomes merciful. Not-self does not mean your feelings are fake. It does not mean nothing matters. It means that what we call me is not as solid as clinging believes. The self we defend is often assembled from feeling, memory, perception, habit, and consciousness. These arise because conditions gather. They change because conditions change. A role can be lived without being owned forever. A grief can be felt without becoming a name. A memory can be honored without becoming a prison. The person who loved, lost, waited, hoped, failed, or was misunderstood is not a fixed object hidden inside you. It is a pattern of experience moving through conditions. Sometimes the thing we call memory is really a costume the self keeps wearing. This is difficult because clinging gives shape. Even a painful identity can feel safer than open space. The wronged one knows what to think. The abandoned one knows what to expect. The disappointed one knows how to protect the heart before anyone gets close. Letting go threatens that structure. It asks the mind to stand without its old costume. No wonder it resists. I've noticed that sometimes I did not want freedom as much as I wanted a familiar story. Freedom was too wide. The story was painful. But at least I knew where to stand inside it. The path does not say, erase yourself. It says, look closely. What you are defending may be something changing, not something permanent. Do not build your whole life around a formation that cannot stay. Letting go begins to soften when the self inside the holding is seen, not destroyed, seen. The grip loses some of its authority because we recognize that it is not protecting an eternal me. It is protecting a pattern that has become familiar, and when that pattern is seen, the practice becomes more precise. We start noticing the moment the mind says mine before the chain has fully formed. Clinging does not arrive as a chain. At first, it arrives as a small claim. The old place appears. The body tightens. Before thought has finished explaining anything, the mind has already placed a small label on the moment. Mine. Not simply remembered. Mine. Not simply painful. Mine. And once that claim is made, the mind begins asking reality to behave as if ownership were true. That small claim may not look dangerous. It may look natural. Of course, this matters to me. Of course, I want the answer, the apology, the return, the proof, the final word. The claim enters quietly because it seems to belong to love, memory, or justice. But if it is not seen, the claim becomes a chain. In the early teachings, clinging is often called upadana. It does not only mean holding tightly. It carries the sense of taking something up, grasping it, feeding on it, making it fuel for becoming. A feeling appears, and the mind takes it up. A memory appears, and the mind takes it up. A role appears, and the mind takes it up. Then, the mind begins to become around what it has taken. This is why letting go can begin before suffering has become unbearable. It can begin at the first private claim the mind places upon experience. Often, we try to let go only after the grip has been fed for hours, days, or years. By then, the feeling has become urgent, the desire has become a right, and the mind has already built a small house around the object. Practice points us earlier. You hear a name in a conversation, and the stomach tightens. You pass a place you used to enter with hope, and the feet slow down without being told. You see someone living a future you once imagined for yourself, and the chest pulls inward like a hand closing around air. Something has touched the senses. Feeling has appeared. Now the word mind tries to form. That is the hinge. Mindfulness does not have to shout at this moment. It only needs to know clearly enough that ignorance is interrupted. Tightness is here. Wanting is here. The mind is making a claim. The word mine is forming. This seeing is small, but it keeps the first link from pretending to be the whole truth. I have missed this moment many times. I thought my suffering began when something was taken from me. Later, I saw that some suffering began when the mind insisted it had owned the thing in the first place. The person, the role, the praise, the closeness, the season of life, even the image of who I thought I was becoming. All of it had been changing under conditions. My pain was real, but the ownership I placed on top of it made the pain heavier. Letting go is not always a dramatic release after years of holding. Sometimes it is the quiet recognition that this feeling does not need to become mine. This memory does not need to become mine. This fear does not need to become mine. It can be known without being possessed. Known, not owned. There may still be action. You may still need to speak, grieve, set a boundary, repair harm, or walk away. Letting go is not passivity. It is action without the extra claim that life must obey the self's demand in order for the heart to be free. The grip becomes a chain when mine is repeated without being seen. The grip begins to loosen when ownership is known at the moment it forms. And when ownership begins to loosen, letting go changes the way we love. One of the deepest fears around letting go is that it will make us less loving. We imagine a person who lets go as someone distant, cool, untouched, almost empty of human warmth. So the heart hesitates. It thinks, if I release my grip, will I stop caring? If I stop needing them, will my love become shallow? If I accept impermanence, will I become someone who does not feel? But the early path does not guide the heart toward numbness. It guides the heart away from possession. There is a difference between loving and owning. Loving sees another being as vulnerable, changing, conditioned, unable to satisfy every demand placed upon them. Owning says, you must remain in the form that protects my sense of self. Loving can bless what changes. Owning turns change into betrayal. This distinction is not easy to live. A parent watches a child become less dependent. The door to the child's room is still the same door, but the silence behind it has changed. A friend senses distance where closeness used to be. The old joke no longer lands. A partner changes in ways that no longer fit the image the heart has been carrying. A teacher, a home, a role, a season of life slowly moves beyond reach. On a quiet morning, the old seat at the table is filled by light instead of a body. No one has to sit there for the love to have been real. No one has to return for the care to remain clean. The empty seat is painful, but it does not have to be turned into a shrine where the present is asked to kneel. The mind may call its grasping love because love is the noblest word available. But under the word, there may be fear. Fear of becoming unnecessary. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of standing in a life that no longer reflects us back. The Buddha pointed again and again to impermanence, not to make us cold, but to make tenderness wiser. What changes cannot be possessed safely. The tighter we demand permanence from a changing being, the more suffering enters the place where love should breathe. This does not mean we should love weakly. It may mean we love with cleaner hands. We care. We listen. We protect where protection is needed. We speak truth. But we begin to notice when love becomes a contract written by craving. You must stay the same. You must make me feel secure. You must heal the ache that belongs to my own. Clinging. I have mistaken need for devotion before. I thought the strength of my attachment proved the depth of my love. But sometimes, attachment only proved how afraid I was of emptiness. True care can survive release. In fact, it may become more honest because release removes some of the bargaining. When the mind is less desperate to possess, it can see the other person more clearly. Not as a role, not as medicine for loneliness, not as proof that we are worthy, just as a being also shaped by causes, fears, habits, wounds, and change. This kind of love is quieter. It does not always feel as intense as clinging. It may not create the same drama in the chest, but it carries less hidden violence. It does not demand that another life become furniture inside our identity. Letting go does not ask love to disappear. It asks love to stop taking hostages. What was love does not need to be possessed in order to be honored. The memory can stay. The tenderness can stay. The gratitude can stay. But the demand that life remain arranged around our ownership begins to loosen. And when this is understood, practice comes down into the smallest, ordinary places. Not as a grand farewell, but as the choice not to keep appointing memory as the owner of the room. Most letting go happens when nothing visible changes. The cup remains in the cupboard. The folded shirt remains in the drawer. The old street remains where it has always been. The name may still be heard. The memory may still arrive when the room becomes quiet. Letting go does not require you to erase these things. It asks you to stop making them responsible for holding your identity together. The mind often wants a dramatic ending. It wants to feel nothing when the memory comes. It wants to walk past the old place with no tightening in the chest. It wants to say, I am free now, and have the body agree immediately. But practice is usually more humble than that. The memory appears, the body reacts. The hand does not build a shrine around the reaction. That is already a beginning. A person may open a drawer and see what they have avoided seeing. The air is still. A line of dust sits along the back edge of the wood. The old object is there, simple and silent. At first, the mind wants to turn it into a doorway. It wants to step through, and become the old self again, the one who was loved in that way, wounded in that way, waiting in that way, hoping in that way, hoping in that way. But the object is only an object. The memory is only a memory. The ache is only an ache. This does not make them meaningless. It makes them lighter. The cup does not have to become a judge. The shirt does not have to become a relic. The street does not have to become proof that life betrayed you. The chair does not have to keep the past alive by refusing the present. This may be the most ordinary form of letting go, allowing a thing to return to its actual size. Not everything that hurts is a command. Not every memory is a summons. Sometimes a memory touches the mind, and the old claim tries to form. Practice begins there. Not by throwing the past away, not by pretending the heart has become clean and untouched, not by forcing yourself to become calm, but by seeing the moment when the mind tries to crown the memory again. Letting go is removing the crown. The past may still have dignity. It may still have lessons. It may still carry grief, gratitude, tenderness, or regret, but it does not need to sit on the throne of the present. It does not need to decide how you speak today, how you love today, or how tightly you close your hand around what cannot be kept. I used to think letting go meant I would feel ready, but often the release comes before readiness. The hand opens while the heart still trembles. The old thought remains nearby, but it is not invited to sit at the head of the table. No one may see the moment you let an object be an object again, but the claim softens. The chain is not remade. Care remains, but ownership loosens. Letting go is repeated training, not turning pain, love, memory, or fear into property of the self. And at the end of this training, the hand may not be empty in the way we feared. It may be open enough to finally touch life without trying to own it. Maybe today you do not throw anything away. Maybe you only place the cup back in the cupboard without asking it to prove the past was real. Maybe you let the chair stay near the window without turning it into a shrine. Maybe you close the drawer gently, not because the heart has forgotten, but because it has stopped asking one object to hold an entire self together. This is small practice. No one else may see it. The room may look the same afterward. The cup still rests in the dark wood. The chair still receives the afternoon light. The memory still comes when conditions gather, but something in the hand has changed. It does not close as quickly. It does not need the past to keep proving that love was real, that pain mattered, or that a version of you once existed there. Notice where the mind says, "This must be mine." A role, a result, a memory, a person's approval, a version of yourself that conditions no longer support. Feel what happens in the body when that claim appears. The throat, the chest, the jaw, the palm. Then do not obey the grip immediately. Let the feeling be known without letting it become a chain. Let the memory remain without making it the owner of the room. Let care remain, but loosen the demand. Let the hand open a little, not because nothing mattered, but because clinging has already cost enough. The hand does not suffer only because it lost something. It suffers because it forgot how to open. Practice begins when it learns the air again. Write this in the comments. I can care without closing my hand.